And now a dose of Israeli security and new developments in this ceasefire deal with Hamas that reportedly is very close to being a done deal and reportedly will bring an end to violence and terrorism from Hamas in Gaza in exchange for humanitarian relief and the opening of several crossings from both Israel and Egypt into Gaza for commercial goods. Israeli media reports that Prime Minister Netanyahu and his security cabinet yesterday met for a total of 4 hours. It was a tough discussion. In the end, they did not make any concrete decisions on how to move forward. Many unanswered questions and apparent contradictions in what exactly each side will agree to and when. Joining me, in addition to retired IDF Colonel Jacques Nerrier, I also have with us our defense correspondent, Daniel Tsemach, who is live along the Israel-Gaza border. Daniel reports that Hamas is willing to have a gradual ceasefire, more of a slowdown of these fire kite attacks. Today, what's the situation like on the ground? What do Israelis who live around that area have to say about all of this news?
Well, first, Jeff, it's important just to remind our viewers that we've heard a similar sort of a promise, or not necessarily a promise, but report regarding ceasefires brokered in recent weeks between Israel and Hamas as brokered through Egypt, that there would be a gradual decline in the phenomenon of these incendiary kites and balloons, which have been causing fires here in Israeli border communities, such as the one that we're currently standing very close to right now. And indeed, the fires continued. But again, it seems as though the negotiations are still ongoing. Residents here, though, are not necessarily totally optimistic of what really will come, if this will really bear fruit. Let's take a listen to what one of them had to say.
I was very, very pessimistic until a week ago, but now it it must be better. I hope what they say in the media, it's right, and they talk now, they want to be ceasefire, and I hope it will be okay.
Daniel, all of this talk and deliberation and discussion, how much of it comes down to the simple question of when exactly will Hamas return the bodies of the fallen IDF soldiers and the civilians that they're still holding on to? How much of all of this is about the answer to that question?
It does seem, Jeff, as though that is the sticking point. That is the main stumbling block here. The issue of prisoner exchange and the issue of those two bodies of those fallen IDF soldiers, as well as 2 Israeli civilians being held captive in the Strip, when we've heard discussions from the Israeli defense establishment over recent months and even years. This has been the main issue. And it seems as though this might be a second phase of this long-term agreement, the first being an end to the border violence and incendiary balloons and kites that have been starting those fires in return for the full opening of the Kerem Shalom humanitarian crossing. Well, the second phase seems as though it might really cause many issues, and we are already hearing Israeli media reports citing ministers who addressed the stumbling block and really the obstacle that it places on an agreement being reached. And it seems as though it's still the case, and very little has changed in that regard. And we're still hearing primarily the Golden family as well as the Shaul family, those being the family of those 2 fallen soldiers, still pushing the Israeli government to make strides to bring them home. We'll have to see what happens in the coming days.
All right, Daniel Tsemach live for us on the Israel-Gaza border. Thank you for that analysis. I want to turn quickly to Bethlehem in the West Bank and speak with Akram Isa, a political analyst and columnist with Al Man News. Thanks for being with us. I want to ask what Fatah has to say about all this. What is the PA thinking about this deal that reportedly is in the last stages right now? Do they support it, or are there big problems for the PA?
In fact, it's a big problem with the PA, since it's not clear if I'm not going to accept the existence of the PA in Gaza. And the demands by the Israelis that PA have to be part of such deal. And since there is a big conflict in the last 10 years between Hamas and Fatah, how to settle, how to take over in Gaza, it will be, part of the deal will be missed. So I believe that Israel in the past, when Hamas and Fatah want to do reconciliation, they are against it, and now they want some type of reconciliation to fit with the such deals which brokered by Egyptian between Israel and Hamas. So this part of the deal itself, of course, other part of the deal is not clear, but this part is an important figure in such deal. If they are not going to reach it, if Abu Mazen will not have a control, of course, it might be affecting it. Hamas.
I want to ask on some level, though, if this, regardless of the details, the idea of a ceasefire, that there won't be any more shelling and violence between Israel and Gaza, that no more Gazans would be hurt or killed, isn't that a good thing? No more violence.
Of course, if there is no more shelling on the people, it would be good things. Everyone could accept it, but in which basis? I don't think that Hamas leadership inside Gaza will accept any deals. It's not an issue about the ceasefire without, or a long-term or truce between the both without other issues. So that it's important to not kill any person either in both sides. And I believe that Gaza suffered a lot, and this might be a pressure on Hamas by itself. But Hamas will not go for the deal just for the ceasefire by itself.
All right, Akram, thank you so much for being with us live in Bethlehem.